Woke up early, dawn's out shining. Coffee brewing, thoughts aligning. Business world keeps redefining. Success is more than just headlining. Ray's got wisdom, Jim's got vision.
I'm Fred McMurray, and we're back again with Ray Pillar and Jim Treleaven for another episode of Pillar's Principles. Hi, Ray. Hi, Jim. How are we doing today?
Doing good.
Doing good, Fred. Thanks.
All right. Today's discussion is how to improve customer service and recognize good customer service. So, I guess how do you define what's good customer service? Let's start with there. Ray.
Well, first, the very first thing you should do is answer the phone. It may sound like a weird thing, but so many vendors that I have, you go through this weird tree and end up getting hung up on. So a live person to answer the phone without having to push a bunch of numbers that in many cases don't link to what you want to accomplish anyway. And once that happens and you start talking to your client, your customer, then you need to listen. Don't talk. Find out what the issue is. Probably, I'm going to say 80–90% of the time, the customer wants to vent because something has gone wrong. Okay, I'm assuming something has gone wrong. The product is not right, or the service has not been completed to their expectations. So you just need to listen to find out what is going on. And if it's indeed that case, then you simply need to find out what it is, how you're going to correct it, and when you're going to correct it.
All right. So let me reiterate that. Step one, according to Ray, is answer the phone, which means have a human answering the phone.
Right.
Which means like 80% of large corporations are wiped out because these days you're getting AI attendants, which
Yes.
I end up screaming into the phone. B, listen to the customer event.
Mm-hmm.
C is then resolve the let the customer know that you're going to resolve it and when.
Yes. What you're going to do and when you're going to do it.
This assumes that the business actually cares, but and banks don't, but that's okay. Nor the insurance company I dealt with. So I will.
Your list was going to grow, I know.
Yelling to an AI doesn't do any good. Might help you feel a little better, but it doesn't do any good.
All right, Jim, same question.
Okay, I totally agree with everything Ray said. I'm going to take a couple thousand feet higher starting point by saying that the anecdote is people ask, because I've done all these turnarounds, about 8 or 10 of them over the years, and sort of what's the common issue with these companies? And everyone is there's cashews, all kinds of stuff. But the one common thread with all of them was crappy customer satisfaction. And that is, I preach that in the courses I teach, like even project management. The most important person in that whole process is the customer. And so that's a huge, big deal. Mm-hmm. So by way of anecdote, the one company I will reference is publicly traded supply chain software company, pretty good size, about the size we were talking about before, 50 million. And with huge customers, Home Depot, General Motors, Chrysler, Boeing, that ran their worldwide parts distribution networks with this company's software. And the company's been around for a while. But every single one of their customers was looking to replace them and or sue them. And most of those companies had more lawyers than we had employees. And they were totally justified. The culture of the company was the customer was an annoyance. It was sort of like AI bots that you mentioned, Ray. So anyway, so that was, and the company had 2 months of cash, and so we had to get that fixed. Now the good news is it's an application. The last thing the CIO of General Motors wants to do is swap out the software running the whole thing.
Right.
So, sticky application, and you have a bit of a runway once you go and get yelled at by him. But anyway, so you one of the things you asked for was how do you measure it and so forth. So we set as our strategic goal for the company, once we got cash flow fixed and all that, was we were going to go from worst to first in terms of customer satisfaction in the supply chain space. And companies like Gartner and Forrester track that externally, so you know where you stand. And that was the single biggest issue. We had to fix that. And it was a combination of factors. I mean, answering the phone and giving a damn. Software working, responding to specific requirements. So we put that in place. The organization structure that we put in place to do that was we put one very senior person in the company in charge of each of those large customers. And they were empowered to do whatever the hell it took to make them happy. It worked surprisingly well. Now, we knew what the goal was, worst to first, but we had to religiously measure how we were doing, because that was one of the things you both mentioned as well. So we did that 2 ways. We did, the survey stuff, but that's not really key. So we did lots of interviews. And constantly did that to track how we were doing. And it took a while. I mean, the culture in the company had to change. We'd already pissed everybody off, so we had a ways to go. But within 3.5 years, we had gone from worst to first. Wow. And that saved the company. I mean, if we hadn't done that, customer satisfaction was the key issue. And customer satisfaction can take many forms. In the case of that company, it was, I mean, we never called on the CIO anyway, which was an issue, but we did not answer the phone, like Ray said. Very.
One of the things that came to mind as you were speaking is before that phone rings, you need to teach the people who answer the phone how to manage.
Yes.
How to manage expectations. And it's extremely important because many times people have a certain expectation of a product or a service.
Yes.
And if you don't tell them, hey, you know what, it's not a can opener, it's a car or whatever. In other words, it's not going to open cans. It will take you down the street. and you may think, I'm just using that as a example, but a lot of people have expectations that are just totally outlandish, and
for sure.
don't know where they get them from. But you need to somehow or another make sure that when you first start talking to that client or customer, to manage those expectations.
You're absolutely
in my
right.
business, we don't clean windows on the outside. We may clean a little bit on the inside, but not on the end. And if people are expecting that, then of course they're going to be really disappointed when they get home and find their windows are still dirty.
Very good point. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so you both kind of segued into the next question. Is Jim used the phrase empower employees. So how, and then you touched on the C word, the culture, but since we already did that in the previous episode, I'm not going to go back to the culture one until we interview somebody about it. But how do you employ, what are steps you can take to empower employees to give good customer satisfaction? Because I'll swear to God, after some of the companies I've talked to in the last couple of weeks, the last thing they give a crap about is giving good customer service.
That's true. Yeah. All of the managers in my company are empowered to correct the situation.
So how did you go about getting them that way? how do I, as a business owner with employees, what steps do I have to take to empower them to give good customer service besides maybe a cattle prod?
Well, um, probably one of the first things is as these phone calls start coming in, and they're saying, okay, this customer is saying that we didn't do this, this, and this, and this is what they expected. We evaluate the situation. We may not answer them immediately. Say, oh, okay, well, we'll give you back some money, or we'll come back out and correct it. We try to evaluate it, and once you've done that so many times, uh, the managers will know what their latitude is. In other words, without contacting someone, a supervisor higher up than themselves. So they'll begin to realize, okay, well, we can give them back some money, or we can come out and redo the service, or whatever. Once they know what their latitude is, but there's also some benefit in saying, okay, let me when your customer representative is talking to your client and says, well, let me talk to my management. There's some value in that, because it shows that you care enough to to talk it over with a senior person to make a decision on this. So, but in many cases, it's a simple thing, and can be taken care of at the first level.
So what I heard there was you need to set ground rules for what we'll call tier one support
Mhm.
can do before they have to escalate.
Yes, yes, but there's an advantage to escalating as well, because depending on the situation.
Okay.
It's kind of rare where anybody contacts me, because it goes through several other layers first, and they're empowered to make a decision as well.
Yes, folks, if you want to contact Ray, do it through the show. You'll get to him.
That's it.
Jim, but your thoughts? How do you develop that good customer service mentality in your employees?
Okay. And I was going to say to remind me that there are different flavors of customer service too.
Mhm.
So there's the frontline people that answer the phone. So we had to deal with that. And that was not done well in this company. We didn't react well in terms of requests to fix bugs. We didn't react well to add features, none of that. So what the one senior person, we had to work on the people answering the phone so that they weren't like the ones Ray was talking about, but and we did do that. But the question was empowering. So the senior person was empowered to get development to fix it, to fly somebody out to fix a problem, whatever it took. When the customers saw that happening, it made such a huge difference. And so when we talk about customer satisfaction, just to expand it a little bit, we've been talking about the frontline people answering the phone. That's very important, obviously. But it can go all the way up to the CEO of the customer. So another company that had issues was getting thrown out of everywhere, and was an ERP company, much larger, like close to $500 million, with big customers: American Express, Prudential, Citicorp, mostly financial institutions. And the issue there was the people answering the phone were outstanding. The people that they supported loved them. I mean, they were considered the best in the industry by far. So that wasn't the issue. But we were about to get thrown out of all of those companies. And the reason was they were answering the phone for customers, but there's different kinds of customers. The other kind of customer we were ignoring were the CIOs and the CEOs of those companies. They were getting called on by all of the brand new shiny ERP systems like SAP and Oracle, PeopleSoft. And this company was not talking to them. So their assumption was, this is legacy software. We're not working on it. And so, everybody's being told about Y2K and, scaring the crap out of these people. And so they were very unsatisfied, but for reasons that really weren't real. Well, we had to fix a few things, but in any case, so we had to make sure that we not just answered the phone well, but that we were good at communicating what we were doing strategically. And about
So,
that forever, but it was very important to deal with every level in the company.
so what I just took from that is above and beyond, as Ray was talking about, mitigating customer issues. One of the things for good customer service is ongoing outreach and touching customers, is what I'm hearing.
Mhm.
The larger customers, and this can be
Yes,
through, I'm assuming, phone call, email, things like that.
showing up
Yeah. Yeah.
in person. That's the most important, actually, in those cases.
So showing up in person, does this mean just in person, or does this also showing up on Zoom help?
Well, Zoom didn't exist when we did that, but it would actually.
Right. We are in the post-COVID age, so or maybe we're in COVID again. I don't know. We're post-lockdown.
Email and phones existed, but Zoom did not. So
All right. So um, one of the things you both kind of touched on was the measurement of customer service or customer satisfaction. So to give good customer service, you have to measure customer satisfaction, is what I've heard. At least
yes,
that's what you both kind of alluded to.
yep.
So how do you measure customer satisfaction? Who wants to jump first?
Well, social media will do that for you.
Yeah,
That's
but
a good.
social media also said the other person was going to win the last election. And, social media says a whole lot of crap, which is,
Yes, it can and can be believed, but any good company will work hard at making sure that they're not going to get too many uh, negative ratings. So I don't. We do have a measure, and boy, for the life of me, I can't think of what it's called right now. But there is a company that measures that for us. Uh, but yeah, it needs to be measured just like any other metric.
so,
Yeah, I completely agree with Ray. And as I mentioned before, when we set specific goals, we had to measure it religiously. And it's a good point that there are more sophisticated approaches now with, you can post Google reviews and all that kind of stuff as well. And for the larger companies, it's, you have to get the personal feedback is probably the most important.
okay.
And,
So,
and I was going to say, and there are also very sophisticated techniques that another company used because it did their customer help desk was offshore, but that company was really good at it. They had reports every day, first call resolution, how long it took for people to answer the phone. I mean, they measured everything, and it made such a huge difference.
I
okay.
can give you a fairly good example of a vendor I dealt with for a number of years. When I was having a problem, I would call their service line. They asked me my name, the name of the company, the address, my account number, all the pertinent information, and then I'd explain the problem, and she said, "Oh, I can't help you with that. I'll have to turn it over to the next level." And the next level, you would think they would transfer that in the computer over. No. What's your name? What's your address? What's your account number? You know. So what we do is basically in our office is when a client calls in, their account automatically pops up on the screen. So we say, "Hello, Mrs. Smith. How are you?" You know, she doesn't have to tell us who she is, what her address is, just what the problem may be if there is a problem.
That makes a huge difference,
Oh,
actually.
it does. It does.
Okay, so I want to go back to Google reviews because everyone talks about those. And um, recently, within the last week or so, there was a case in where McDonald's that had, I think, supported somebody, whether it was somebody in the Daniel Penny trial or something else, and it pissed a whole lot of folks off that they were supporting these folks, and McDonald's got flooded with a ton of one-star reviews to the point where Google literally stopped the new reviews from coming in and started taking them out. Now, to me, when I see and when I look at the Amazon reviews that are the news about various Amazon review, uh, foreign farms creating fake reviews,
Oh,
as
for sure.
as an end user, I start to wonder about the validity of these reviews in judging a client.
You're absolutely right. This instance you were talking about was the kid, a little older than a kid, that murdered the CEO of the
Yeah.
insurance company, was identified by a McDonald's employee. And, which was being a good citizen, which appears to be an issue these days. But anyway, and so that's what caused all the, makes no sense at all, but caused all the negative reviews for McDonald's. But
So in that case, a a small business isn't going to survive. A small business, you can't even get somebody from Google on the phone or Well, I've been one of the few that have been lucky enough to actually have Facebook call me on the phone to resolve a problem. But 999 out of 1,000 people I've talked to, I think I maybe met one other person who's actually gotten a call, talked to a live person at Facebook. So the when we talk about social media and being a valid metric for customer satisfaction, what happens when it's not? And you can't, a small business, even sub 5 million, you can't go to Google or Facebook and say, hey, these are fake reviews, take them down. What do you do? What's your crisis management thing for customer service?
Avoidance. I'm
Except
trying to avoid that, but
I
somebody said any advertising, negative or good, is good advertising. So,
that's a good point.
yeah,
But I think in the case of that you described, the McDonald's case, I'm guessing that hardly any McDonald's customers gave a damn.
yeah,
So I don't think in that case it had any effect on their business.
I would say
Now,
I agree with that 100%.
now another example where it did would be Bud Light, where they got a lot of negative feedback from that
Yeah.
one ad, and that killed their business.
Yes.
So, it's a very heterogeneous space in terms of what happens and how you deal with it. But I'm guessing in the McDonald's case, probably had virtually no impact at all.
I think as far as Bud Light was concerned, that was mostly because their original target was a male, macho type male, and they reversed it. If they had maybe done something in the middle, it wouldn't have been so bad.
Yeah.
So in a future episode, we're going to come back to the how do you do crisis management.
Very good. That's an excellent topic. Yes, I like that.
Come to that, back to that one. But in the meantime, to finish off this episode, what are each of your top two, besides answer the phone, what are the top two takeaways you'd want to leave people with in maintaining good customer satisfaction? Or as I like to put it, how not to give crappy customer service?
Manage expectations and delegate.
That's a good one. And the ones I would say are make customer satisfaction your most important goal as a company, culturally and otherwise, and then empower the employees to make sure that happens.
Yep.
Ooh, excellent stuff. All right, folks, this has been Pillars Principles with Ray Pillar and Jim Treleaven, and yours truly, Fred McMurray. We'll be back with another episode of Pillars Principles, or how to grow in your small business to make it something you can pass on to others, as we've hit that topic before. See everyone next week.
Woke up early, dawn's out shining. Coffee brewing, thoughts aligning.